To our LinkedIn Live with special guest Alana Kirk, who is a midlife coach. We're here to talk about the National Menopause Summit, which is happening on the 11th and 12th of April in the Aviva in Dublin. But today we really want to talk to Alana because she did some video interviews there last week and I found them really, really interesting. So Alana, very welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm really thrilled to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, you are actually one of the speakers at National Menopause Summit, but first of all, I want for people that are tuning in and watching, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you ended up being a midlife coach.
So I work as the midlife coach, and I laugh because my 18-year-old daughter is currently filling out her forms for university and deciding what she's going to be. And when I was 18 in 1988, there was no such thing as a midlife coach. And in fact, if you said the word midlife to me, I think I'd have run to the hills. So I've arrived at this spot via, like most women, a hyphenated life of doing lots of different jobs and roles, and actually your life takes on lots of different phases. So I spent many years in the nonprofit sector, and then my own midlife changed. So I had a family. I stepped back from that big job. I did a lot of writing and different things, and then my own life hit a sort of a wall in some respects. And that my mum had a stroke, and I was catapulted what is into the sandwich years, which a lot of women are now because our parents are living older and our children we're having children later. And I was in the sort of sandwich years caring for my mum and young children. And then my marriage ended. And I remember just sort of 2 weeks before my 45th birthday, looking in the mirror, and it wasn't the fact that my mum was dying or the fact that my marriage had ended. It really was that I had had my head barreled down in survival mode for the previous 10 years, sort of having babies, raising babies, looking after mum, that I'd lost all sense of who I was. And it's really common for women at midlife. And often when I'm talking, I talk about the fact that, we start in our 20s quite centered with ourselves. We're trying to pursue, we're chasing, and the energy of our life in our 20s is chasing. And it's about, chasing all of the types of person we're going to be. We've created the checklist of success for which we might look back and say, right, we've succeeded. And that might look like a career, education, the one, and a house, kids, whatever it might be. And then we get to midlife, and sometimes some of those checkboxes haven't been ticked, or they've changed, or they weren't actually ones that we thought we wanted in the first place. And then we get to midlife and can ask a sort of better question, not what do I want my life to look like, but what do I want my life to feel like? And things happen, and midlife is now this incredible extended period of time. When my mum was born, her life expectancy at birth was 59. When my youngest daughter was born, her life expectancy is now likely to be 100. So there's an extra 20, 30 years to play with in midlife, not old age. And so there's a lot of amazing opportunities for women now, where we've got incredible freedoms, opportunities, choices, and chances. And it's one of the most dangerous times in a woman's life, in women's history, in terms of mental and emotional well-being, because we were told we could have it all. We ended up just doing it all. And there's a lot of overwhelm and a lot of change. And over that period of time, maybe in your 30s, 40s, you've gone through a lot of emotional change. You've gone maybe from a single person to a partner. You can come quite decentered. So you start yourself off in your 20s quite centered. And then women can go through a couple of decades where they suddenly become all things to all people. And they can kind of forget who they are to themselves. And let's throw menopause into the midst of all of that.
Yay.
So I, when my own life, and I started rebuilding myself, I went back to college and retrained and learned psychology. And here I am. And I help women navigate the messy mayhem of midlife and try and take advantage of all of those possibilities, as well as navigate some of the issues, which is, a lot of overwhelm and a lot of conditioning that we still have to be all things to all people before we can be something to ourselves.
Wow. And I know that the National Menopause Summit organizers, they did a survey recently, and 76% of, they asked a question, do you think this time of life is an ideal time for change? And 76% of people said yes. So that was a really interesting response. Like I found with me, like my marriage ended when I was 40. So it's kind of following the pattern of what you said, and now I have a grandchild, actually. I'm 52 now. And I don't mind saying that, by the way. I don't mind telling people I'm 52. Yeah. I mean, because you mentioned actually in a video as well about being the bridge between Can you tell us a bit about what you said about the bridge?
So I really believe we are this unique generation of women. We are the first generation to live maybe a third to half our lives postmenopausal and not be fecked into the corner to knit, desexualized and devalued. We get to have a whole, almost after giving birth to one family, we can actually give birth to ourselves. So we are literally, that's never happened in human history. Women had a very clear trajectory. You were young for as long as you could breed, and then you were over there. And I certainly saw my mum really suffer in that state. She felt neglected and negated by society. But I think our generation are also suffering from that issue of the fact that we have all these choices and chances, but we don't know how to choose or what to choose because the landscape is virgin. And I talked about that checklist before. And that really only takes you up to a certain point. And then what we hoped was, and I can see my daughter in exactly the same space, and you kind of think, oh, great, I'll check all those boxes and then I'll arrive. I'll put my feet up and someone will hand me a welcome cocktail. What actually happens is you hit midlife and you're absolutely overwhelmed. You are juggling so many things and you're trying to build a career. You're trying to have a sense of self. You're trying to have a family. And I think what we have to do, we are the generations, whether you are now in your 40s, 50s, or 60s, we are the generations of women who are this bridge, who are redefining what midlife can be. From all the women before who couldn't, like my mother and maybe yours, and to our daughters. I have 3 teenage daughters, and the landscape is virgin. And part of what I do as a midlife coach and part of what a summit like this will do is help women take that colored marker and start writing the signposts, because there hasn't been a midlife like this one before. And there are endless possibilities. You've got this colored marker in your pen. You can choose to redefine your marriage. You can choose to redefine your career. I see a lot of people repurposing. So they might have done a 30, 40 years career, and then they're not ready to retire, but they want to use their skills and passions in a different way. We can repurpose, we can redefine post-marriage relationships. When I mentioned that checklist that my daughter's doing about finding the one, I hate to tell her there's likely to be more than one. You have to be your one. And we have to redefine that. But it's hard because women are still massively taking a disproportionate amount of care roles. And women in particular, because of the outdated conditioning, because of what kept society running, which is women did all things for all people, that doesn't serve us anymore, but we still feel it. And I call it the triad of turmoil that women are often caught up in, especially at midlife, which is people pleasing, imposter syndrome, and perfectionism. And, we're just constantly bombarded by these external demands and expectations. And so what I'll be talking about at the summit is how do we age powerfully? How do we take that colored marker, not only write the new signs, but sign your own permission slip. Sign your own permission slip and take radical responsibility for your health, your happiness, and your evolution. But show the next generation that there is another way where you don't have to be overwhelmed to live a magnificent midlife.
It's funny, while you're talking there, I'm aware we have 19 people viewing this. So please give a comment and we will feature your comment on the screen or your questions, anything like that. But I know for me, you mentioned, this time in life, I'm 52, as I mentioned. And, one thing, we wouldn't be able to do this. We wouldn't be able to do, our mothers wouldn't have had access to technology and to all of this, where we can actually spread a positive message about this. Instead of, they wouldn't have had access to information. And the National Menopause Summit has all these menopause support series and stuff. We wouldn't have had access to that, or they wouldn't have access to that.
When my mom, and I've written a piece about this, when I was a teenager, my mom was what I now know going through this. It was mentioned like the big C. It was whispered, menopause, if it was mentioned at all. There was very little knowledge. And my mom, what I thought, had a nervous breakdown. And for many years, I assumed my mom had a nervous breakdown. I know, of course, she had menopause because she had a hysterectomy and she was, thrust into that space. So yes, we have, and it's really important that we have spaces like this to talk about this. Like here we are on LinkedIn, a very high profile work environment, and we're able to say menopause. But I think the other thing is really important is that is not your whole story at midlife.
Yes.
There's a bit of a narrative that you have a midlife crisis and it's menopause. You know what? And this is why the summit is so important, because it's full of so many experts. You get that piece of your jigsaw right. You get
Yes.
the information you need. And when I talk about aging powerfully, I talk about, taking that radical responsibility for yourself. A lot more needs to be done, but there is information out there now. There are supports in place. Get that bit of it right, and then get on with living this incredible, extended, unique, redefining midlife, and show the next generation of women that we get to thrive, not just survive this period of time.
And do you know what I noticed a lot as well? As you know, I'm involved in a lot of different communities, but a lot of women have decided, like you mentioned, about maybe ending a career and then starting a business.
Mm-hmm.
So I have seen that. And I did it myself when I was 40.
Yeah.
My marriage had ended. My youngest daughter was about to start school. And I started my business in my 40s. So I've noticed a lot of women starting businesses and following their passion as well. Now, not all women start businesses, I know that. I'm
But
just
it
saying,
is a time of a massive creativity. If we
yeah,
get that piece, the jigsaw right. So on
yeah,
one hand, there's a lot of sort of, well, not negative narrative, but there's a harsh narrative that there's a crisis, there isn't. There is a reawakening, hopefully. You may have slumped into default mode, survival mode, and my job as a coach is to help women reconnect with themselves again. But then all research says that you're happier after 50. So there's a lot of good news, but also this idea that there's no crisis, that's been debunked, and that menopause is something to be endured. It is something for you to be knowledgeable about, get as many supports as you possibly can, and then as part of perimenopause and menopause and therein after, this is an amazing time for women. We've lost a lot of the cuddle hormones that made us nurturing people, which means we can now turn that attention and light on ourselves and thrive. And according to Forbes, the biggest cohort of people setting up businesses are women after 50. And part of that could be because they're trying to juggle family and career and all the rest of it. But also because this is a real time of excitement and thriving. And if and there are a lot of difficult stories of women not getting the support they need. But once you get that, then it's like a rocket, you're off and you can have this time. And say, I work with women 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. And I've had women who have had real wrecking balls come into their life at any point in time. Mine happened to be in my sort of mid 40s. Other women, it's in their 50s. And life is full of change. We will lose. We will be disappointed. We will not get the things we want. Someone we love may not love us anymore. We might just fall out of love. There's a whole span of things.
or we lose people we love.
Or we lose people. So that's part of life.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think we really do a disservice to, and again, why I think we are this generation to really change things up. We're told that the goal in life is to be happy 100% of the time. That is not the goal in life. The goal in life is to be able to go through a wide range of experiences and emotions and stay connected to yourself. So as the coach, often why I talk about women in particular and how we can lose our sense of selves and that disconnect. So sorry, I started to talk about we're very connected and centered to ourselves in our 20s. We can become quite decentered in our 30s, 40s. And then through menopause and after it, we can recenter and reconnect in our 50s and 60s. And I liken it to the Russian dolls. This is a set my daughter bought me recently. And, we start off as our glorious core. And we are who we are. We're this innate person. And, I have 3 daughters. They're all completely different. But very quickly, we take on the first layer from our family, from our culture. So Catholic, Irish, 70s, 80s, we'll have taken on an awful lot of that. And we've had to debunk that ourselves as we got older. Women can actually have a bank account. We don't break the controls lest our hysterical tendencies. We are allowed at the top table. And then you might take on a layer in the career that you choose. And then you might take on a layer as a partner, then one as a parent, until it's this outer doll that you kind of present to the world. And there's nothing false or wrong about these, but what can often happen, and what I see, and certainly what happened to me, is that these layers smother the core. And what can happen at midlife is that you start reawakening, or you realize you're so disconnected. And it's not about, building a new you, it's retrieving you.
Yeah.
And the core should color these roles, not be smothered by them. And a huge amount of the work that I do is helping women connect back to that part and retrieving the parts of herself so that she's actually a better parent, daughter, sister, partner, or whatever role she chooses to have.
It's funny, I started reading books again. And I was like, why have I not read books? I just realized I didn't have the time, and I wasn't giving myself
Yeah.
space to do it as well. But isn't it funny, little things like that I've noticed? And I like being on my own.
Yeah, I love being on my own. I love you kids. I'll see you next week when you're back. What's really exciting is for women to find that sense of voice. So a big part of aging powerfully, and I'll be talking about this at the summit in one of the breakout sessions, is differentiating between your own voice and that external narrative that tells women who they should be and how they should be. Oh, we're supposed to just love our children all of the time and never want to be alone. I can't swear. Rubbish. Listen to your own voice. What do you need? Some people like to be with people all the time. Some people love being on their own. I work with a lot of women who have clearly come out of a marriage. And not many of them want to go back into living with someone again. Now, that's not against the men or anything else, because we get to redefine post-marriage relationships now. And, as my children will never forgive me for saying it on the Tommy Tiernan show, but, I'm at the stage in my life, I'm 54, where, I want to take a man's shirt off, not iron it. So I've had that relationship. I can define what I want my post-marriage relationship to look like. I probably wouldn't live with someone, but I want someone to have adventures with and go and have a vibrant relationship with, because I'm not forming a family with them.
Yes.
And so women, it's about differentiating your voice from all of that external noise that told you who you should be, from parents to partners to culture. Who am I at this age and stage of life, having lost and loved and learned and laughed? Who am I now? What are the things that made me happy in my 20s, or maybe not? What have I discovered since? Who have I become as a result of some of the hardships, as well as some of the achievements in my life? And a big part of what I do is helping women just go, hello, look at who you are now. Let's just look at her. Not in that way that women do, looking in the mirror going, oh my God, I'm too fat. Oh my God, I've got, whatever. Looking at yourself and going, you know what? I've done all right. And you may not have ticked all the boxes. You may not be as skinny or as young or as rich as half the people on Instagram, but you're you for all that you've been through. I mean, if someone had said to you, Sam, when you were in your early 20s, that you were going to be a grandmother at 52, you might have just a single, having a single mother, divorce, you might have thought, what? Whereas now it's the most glorious thing in your life.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
So often what I think when I talk about aging powerfully is that we just lift our head up from the parapet. We stop being barrel down in survival mode and lift ourselves up and think, who am I now at this age, at this stage? Menopause is a big part of that. And things like this summit are so important because, unfortunately, we haven't had the information and support we've needed, and we need to change that, and it is being changed. But get that part of the equation right, and this could be a really glorious time of your life. And that happiness curve, they've debunked the idea of crisis. And men go off and get a red sports car, women start doing yoga and being by themselves. If that's midlife, I've started gardening. God, if that's midlife, I'm all for it. But actually what happens is it's a happiness curve. So you start off with all these expectations of life, and I can see my daughters embarking into it. And then, you know what, it gets a bit hard. It gets overwhelming. You're exhausted. It's so much about output, and you forget about the input, and then there's this slump, but actually it rises again. And the most important thing, and if I could beg every woman who's listening and is that any time is the time for you to say, this is my time, that I need to take that light that I often shine so much on other people, on myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not to the exclusion of them. You don't have to subtly not, but you can be a loving, caring parent and evolve as a person yourself. You can be practical and playful. You can be a generous, kind, giving person and have really clear boundaries. They're not
boundaries. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. That's something I'm still learning.
And one boundary is not accepting menopause symptoms as a thing that you just have to drag yourself through. That you can take yourself to things like the summit. I think there's some tickets left. Not many, but I think there are, and arm yourself. And it is arm yourself with the knowledge so that you can then take advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. Emma has commented. Thank you, Emma. Emma has commented from Twitter. I love Alana's energy and perspective on midlife. If anyone else wants to
That'll be the testosterone I'm on. Game changer.
So so why are you taking part in the National Menopause Summit? I think you've kind of answered that, but like, just what is it that made you attracted you to this? I know it's because you feel the information that's being shared is very valuable.
Well, I'm not a doctor, so I'm not there to talk about hormones and what you should take and what you should do. I wanted to give a slightly bigger perspective of menopause is a part of a massive picture of midlife. And, I was talking about that sort of negative narrative of, oh God, it's all doom and gloom. It's all aging. And, I think we have to accept we are aging in an age of anti-aging propaganda. And that's really, really hard. And what I love is seeing women fighting back and saying, this is my age. I love that because even, again, why we're this bridge between the generations before, there was actually a social etiquette that you never asked a woman her age.
Yeah.
It's madness, as if aging was somehow, a sin or a problem. Well, let me tell you, I'm 54 and proud, because I know many women who didn't get here feeling in any way that they have lived their lives as well as they might have, because they've been, driven down by other things. So I'm proud to be, and I'm seeing it everywhere, women saying their age and being proud of it. We are redefining ages. As I say in my book, I wrote a book called Midlife Redefined, Better, Bolder, Brighter. And as I say at the beginning, it's not this pseudo posturing that still advocates that being younger is better. It's not like 40 is the new 30 and 50 is the new 30. It's 40 is the new 40. There has never been a 40 like this. 50 is the new 50. There's never been a more powerful, I was at the gym this morning, can't actually lift my arms. There's never been a more powerful, healthy 50 for women. 60 is the new 60. There's never been a sexier, more vibrant, more passionate, more purposeful, repurposed 60 in history. 70 is a new 70. We're not new any other age. We're the new. We are redefining these ages. And that's what I want to talk about. I want to add that context to the story of menopause, a very serious story that is being told at the summit of what are your needs, what are the symptoms, what are the dangers, what do you need to do? And they've got everything from sex experts to physical experts to hormone and doctors and all of it. And I want to add the perspective of, let's put the life into your midlife. Get this piece right, and then there's so much. Arm yourself with a colored marker and let's go writing some of those signposts. And just to add to that, just in case women are feeling, oh God, not more pressure. Some of those signposts might mean stepping down, slowing down, going sideways. It's not always this trajectory of bigger's, better's, bolder. It's having the courage to listen to that voice and go, this pace is not working for me.
Yeah, but I think we are doing that. I mean, look, Dolores, thanks Dolores. Dolores just commented, I'm 57, I'm proud of make a note share. And I used to feel, oh, do I have to dance around bonfires naked during a full moon or something? Or you don't have to do it
if you want.
Yeah, but I don't want to do that, and I don't want to go see swimming, and I don't want to, there's things that I don't do. Of course, but I do want to, for the next generation, show that, okay, I started a career later. There's always you can always start again.
Yeah.
You can always start new stuff and find new things that you like that you probably didn't even know. Solo traveling. That's something that's on my list for this year.
It's a big part of my life. I advocate it a lot. It's so important. I wrote a piece recently on my Substack, which is, it's so important for women to find time and do things alone. Go, book yourself a ticket to London and go to some shows by yourself. Don't wait for somebody else to have to come with you.
Yes.
Take that power. But it is really knowing yourself. And if I was to say again what aging powerfully means, it's paying attention to your life. Where are you? How are you? Who are you at this age, whatever that is, and to keep doing that. So for example, I'm 54, I'm single parenting 3 teenage girls. It is the horror heist of hormones. There is hardly a door left on its hinges. And, I'm busy, I'm trying to build a business and all the rest of it. But what I try to do with women is also get them to see you're not always going to be in this space, whether that's good or bad. And that what's 3 years ahead. This year, my youngest started secondary school. That had a massive impact in terms of my space and time.
Mm.
And I've told anyone who listen in my family that, once my kids have finished school, I intend to go fully pray love in my early 60s. I want to take my laptop and travel and work and have a sense of freedom. And I can do that now, but I need to plan for it. And part of aging powerfully is having a really dynamic relationship with yourself, with your body, with how you are, who you are, checking in, understanding that you're changing constantly, making sure you've got the right supports, because perimenopause is a 10-year, could be longer period of time. But it's also understanding, who do I need to be for my future selves? So if I'm doing yoga in Bali when I'm 65, coaching and doing retreats and stuff, I need to be getting up and doing the yoga now.
Yes.
It's investing now in your future self.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just looking at the time here. We could sit here all day. And thank you so much to everybody who's still watching. We've 41 people watching. So thank you. And do comment or ask a question if you want to. Just so you know, that National Menopause Summit.com, the link is down below. If you want to go and get your tickets, it's the 11th. I think the 11th is nearly fully booked up. And then the 12th, there are tickets available.
And just so you know, it's the same content each day.
Yes,
so it's not a 2-day event. You can pick your day to go.
And Alana will be there. I'll be there. There'll be lots of people there. Grania Shoiga is the MC. And then we have Mariella Frostrop. We have lots of speakers, really, really fact-based information. And I know there's tables available if there's a group of people in business that want to.
Can I just quickly add, I went last year at the invitation of a client of mine, actually, and she had asked her husband for a table for 10 for her Christmas present, because she said, I have enough things. I want a table of 10 and I want to bring women to this event. Now, isn't that is empowering and aging powerfully and taking radical responsibility, not just for yourself, but for others.
Well, that's lovely. And I know that if people are interested in tables, if they contact Sinead at bestinvest.ie, I've just put the email in there. But we still have another question. Do you feel enough is being done to help women in menopause?
No. And one of the things as a non-doctor that I notice in my clients, and this is my perspective, this is what I can bring, and I'll let the experts do their piece. Just like we get a cervical check or breast cancer letters and stuff that reminds us, okay, now we have to start taking care of that aspect of our life. I really think it would be important for women to get some sort of heads up. And I don't know, someone else was better informed should pick the date, but let's say 40. Because often when I start coaching with somebody, I will send them a little pre-chat questionnaire, just a few questions so I can get into it as soon as we start. And one of the questions is, where are you on that whole perimenopause, menopause journey? Do you know? Have you started? Do you have a clue? Or are you at the other side? Just to get a sense so I know that influences. And the number of times someone says to me, oh, no, I don't think I've started yet. No. Because they're waiting almost for the hot flush.
Yes.
And then we get
hot flush.
It's arrived. Menopause, perimenopause has arrived.
Women going to labor on the TV.
It's arrived. And that's not how it happens at all. There are subtle, insidious little changes as our hormone levels change. So they've said no, and then we'll start working together. And one of the things that will come up, because I always start, whatever coaching I do, whether that's because you're trying to have a career, change career, go back to a career after maybe raising kids, whether it's relationships, whatever it might be, there's a sort of process. And I have to always start with what I say, know yourself. So the first few weeks are always about reconnecting to self. And then it's back yourself. What do you want? How do you make those plans? How do you take that colored marker? And then the final part is believe in yourself. So how do we deal with limiting beliefs and all that conditioning? But the know yourself piece is really important. So I will say to them, what's happening in your life? And they'll be like, well, I'm not sleeping. I'm suddenly have lost all confidence. I'm really anxious. And I'm thinking, okay, because those could be symptoms related to menopause. So women, because menopause happens at often the most chaotic time of a woman's life. Listen, it happened to me. I was in the middle of a divorce. I was single parenting 3 small kids. My mom had just died. I was looking after my dad. Of course I wasn't sleeping. Of course I was anxious, but I was also putting on weight. I wasn't paying enough attention because it was all happening in the chaos of my life. And it's so common. And that's why I do think women need a heads up. And they need to go that over the next 10 years, because it doesn't happen on someone's 45th birthday. It can happen at 42, it can happen at 52, it can happen at 47, whatever. But that somehow every single woman in the country gets a heads up and say, over the next while, look out for these. It's not just a hot flush. It's a change in your sleep patterns. It's a change in your appetite, whatever it might be. So I think if we start there, and then, but look, here, it all goes down to information. My 3 daughters are in school, they're in secondary school, and they are still not being taught about basic human female biology. They're taught how to have babies, but they're not, and I could go on about they're not even taught how to have an orgasm. As far as the sex education is concerned, they're taught their role is to produce. It's madness. But anyway, but they're not taught about menopause. I've had to teach my children that, sometimes I'm not my best version of myself. And because that's the other thing. I know we're running out of time, but it's a cocktail. I spent my 20s and 30s trying to perfect the best gin cocktail. And now I'm my 40s, 50s trying to, get the right, because the solution you had last year, your hormones are continuing to change and reduce at different levels. So you may need a different cocktail next year. So you need a constant check-in with yourself, mentally, emotionally, and then physically. So I always say to my clients, look, GPs are great, and if you've got a really good GP, brilliant. But I would always recommend you have a menopause specialist as well, because this is a 10-year journey. You need someone who's going to be on your side, checking in and asking you what has changed, because you're usually so busy you may not even be paying attention.
And sometimes the people closest to us can be the ones to tell us that as well. So, it is good to communicate as well, I think. And I'm really looking forward to the National Menopause Summit. And so for people watching, if you haven't got your ticket, I know that the 11th, I think, is nearly sold out. And I know for a fact that there's not many tickets left for April 12th. So if you do want to come along, myself and Alana will be there. So you'll be able to see the superstar Alana as seen on Tommy Tiernan. So it would be lovely and you're going to be around good people. It's not going to be all angry menopausal women.
No.
So even for a guy, by the way, and
there's joy, and I think that's the bit I'd love to get across, is that if you get this piece right, and I think there is a little bit of a temptation now, to kind of, oh, she's menopausal, and I know my children do that. I'm like, no, sometimes actually I'm just angry that no one's stacking the dishwasher properly. That has nothing to do with menopause. That has to do with teenagers not stacking the dishwasher possibly.
Oh, stop. I know. And, just for guys as well, or, if you're in that space or in HR, or, there are going to be things coming in later on down the line as well around menopause at work. Do you know anything about that, or will we pass that on to the next interviewee?
No, but I think it's a conversation that has to happen on every level, at every point. This is not a female subject. This is not a female subject, because our mothers are having it, our sisters are having it, our daughters are having it, our wives are having it, our colleagues are having it, our bosses are having it. Mm-hmm. It's affecting half the population. It's not a maybe if, it's happening.
No choice.
So this is a conversation that involves everybody. And just like, periods weren't talked about 10 years ago.
I know, sure. I was way too early with my business. Remember?
Like, we've got to be able to walk into a room and go, oh, I'm menopausal. But that doesn't mean you all hide in the corner because you think I'm going to become it means, oh, what do you need? Oh, what does that mean? Ask questions. And, men can play a really, really, really important part in advocating for their people that they love and like and work and whatever, but also ask questions. How are you feeling? What can I do? I loved at the Menopause Summit last year, and they were I think it was the Bank of Ireland were talking about, and they'd made their CEO wear this particular jacket for 24 hours or 48 hours, where every so often so it just completely disrupted his temperature. So at any point in time, his temperature would change, and it poked him at night, so he couldn't sleep properly. And I think he only did it for 48 hours, but he was like, oh my God. And women can go through decades of sleep disruption from babies, from periods, and now menopause, And so I really dislike the attitude that, oh God, is another woman women are going through real psychological issues sometime. And believe me, we don't want to. We want to be flinging our bra off and skipping through a field of sunflowers, or whatever you want to do, yogaing on the beach, or whatever you want to do. So let's help all women get the support they need. So that when we are angry or where we are a bit down or we are depressed, it's more likely to do with there's not enough.
Oh, I think we've lost a lot. Oh, we lost you for a little teeny bit there, but sure. Yeah, it was that it's you the bit you were just talking about there. Just say it again. The bit at
So
the
that
end.
we, let's have the big conversation and let's get women having the support they need, as if this was periods, as if this was puberty, as if it's nothing except, oh, it's that's this part. So that when women are presenting with maybe a bit of anger or a bit of frustration, we know it's not menopause, it's because they're maybe not getting the support they need in the home,
Yeah.
or they've lost contact with this core, and then they can start investing in themselves, because there's so much confusion. We're going, oh my god, is it menopause? Is it because I'm overwhelmed? Is it because? Get some clarity, get some time for yourself, understand yourself, listen to your voice. But let's have the conversation on menopause as big and bold and bright as possible, so that we can all get on with living our lives.
Yeah. Yeah. So National Menopause Summit, folks, if you haven't got your tickets yet, you need to be there, because you're going to learn so much and it's going to help us all so much. So thank you very much, Alana Kirk. It was lovely speaking to you.
You
I
too.
love your energy. Thanks, Dolores and Emma, for commenting. And for everybody that's watching, thank you so much. And even if you're not going yourself, maybe you could tell a friend or spread the word, because I do know that we're getting very close to the end of the tickets. So definitely, I'll see you. I'll see you.
I'll see you soon.
Okay, bye. Thank you very much.